And while we are a safe harbor where there is solace and healing, we are also a launching pad from which we are propelled into the tumult of life to live courageously, justly, and lovingly. In this sacred space, we create the structures that lift up the downtrodden, set the captives free, and heal the brokenhearted. Here we have learned that to be fully human is to be fully divine, and that with a little help from our friends, we can each tell our own unique story. Today is our Pride service. Happy Pride to everyone. Glad you are all here. It should be an interesting service. Things may not go quite exactly as they go in our normal services, but pretty much we're on track here. Our chalice lighting might be a little different today. Other than that, I think everything is pretty well on track. Looking forward to some of our contributors here today.
As I light our chalice, I'm reflecting on the wonderful weekend I had with my family in the Lakeview neighborhood of Chicago. It's a place full of LGBTQ pride, joy, love, community, and friendliness. And yesterday at the Pride Fest in Benton Harbor, it was a place full of LGBTQ pride, joy, love, community, and friendliness. And I was especially hopeful that there were several Christian churches there and some of their ministers. So today, let's immerse ourselves in the pride, joy, love, community, and friendship at BUUF.
Thank you, Julie.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to give you a little history first, just a wee bit, in order to get into the progress that the LGBTQ has made in our area. And it's about the YWCA. Now, the YWCA was founded in 1888 here in St. Joe in a beautiful building in downtown St. Joe where you can see an empty lot. Very often there were no cars parked in it or anything, and you wonder why it's there. Well, that's where the building used to stand. And as I say, it was a beautiful old building. And some developers came along and bought the building, or were going to buy the building, and they were able to purchase it, but they weren't able to build on it. And they didn't have enough money. I don't know the story behind it. I would like to find out someday. But the ground has stayed empty all these years. But then in that building was the first LGBTQ group called the Out and Affirmation Center. Now, the Out and Affirmation Center didn't do as much as what's being done today, but in between that progress was that we did do some interesting things. We had a group for women, and there was one for men. It was a place for people to come that didn't have any place else to go, that could talk, can talk about their concerns, about what's going on with them, how they can take care of themselves. And it was a wonderful place for them to be, both men and women. I happened to be part of a women's group, and I was the leader of the women's group. And we would meet once a week or once every other week. And we got down to once a month because we got too big. And we would talk about problems, things that were going on with us, whether it's our relationships, whether it was our health. And that was really the only place then that young men and women, older men and women could come and feel comfortable and feel at home. So it was really worthwhile to everybody concerned. However, when that building went down, the Out and Affirmation Center no longer existed there, of course. So we had to find another place to put it. So the progress of that was that we found a place to put it, and that was the storefront in Benton Harbor. Now, if you go on down into Benton Harbor, and I hope you all have visited Benton Harbor, it's a great town, and there you will find a wonderful storefront, And you're welcome there anytime you want, if there's somebody there. During the day, you will usually find somebody. There are hours up on the door that will tell you. Now, those kinds of things are progress, because with that, we were able to expand our publicity. We were able to let people know that we existed, and that was good. And I say we because I feel like I'm so much a part of it. And the reason for that is because I was on the board of the old YWCA, and when they needed a somebody to work with them, I was the one they chose to be part of their just their board also, and so that I could keep in touch with the LGBTQ people. So now what's going on? Well, there are so many things going on there. There has been progress, a lot more progress. I can feel the progress that's made just with the amount of people who are more open now, who are more willing to talk about the problems of the gay community and to help them out whenever they can. That's progress. It wasn't like that way back at the beginning of the YWCA group, but it did begin to grow. We did have one speaker that I must mention, and that's Jay Kaplan, who is the head of the program in our state of Michigan. So I suggest that we invite Jay Kaplan to come and talk to us once, and I hope that we can get him. I think we can. He has come this way a number of times. But when we were still at the Out and Affirmation Center, it was difficult for us to do a lot because we didn't have a lot of money. Now we are better funded, which is another bit of progress, that we now have more money to spend on things that are important, like particularly the children. The young people have a group there now called the Alive. Was it Alive and what? I think just called Alive. Anyway, that group, those young people get together and talk, and they have allies. The allies are people who are not gay or have any other, so they're not anything. They're just straight guys, and that's what they call themselves, the straight ones. And they have a group, and we have suggested that, and we have visited every high school around and down to the middle schools now, talking to people about encouraging allies to be part of letting other people know that everybody's welcome, no matter whether you're gay or straight or transgender or what. So that is something that's being worked on right now at most of the high schools. Not every high school or middle school has taken part in that yet, but many have. St. Joe High School has, I know that. And I think Bridgman School has too. And so there are quite a few schools around that are beginning to open up much, much more to that. So there just seems to be more relaxation and more comfort in being able to discuss and talk about the problems of the young people and older people about their gender. So that's been very, very helpful. Let's see, what else can I tell you about it that's important? If you have any questions for me, please be more than willing to ask. The progress that have made been, I see letters to the editor that I never saw before, which I think is important, and for us to continue to do. Of course, visiting the teachers and letting the schools know is very, very important. Parents, I think, are the most difficult when they have with their children how to talk to them, how to let them know who they are and who other people are. They come and say, this person, I don't know what he is or what she wants from me. And to be able to say, let's sit down and talk about this, to have books for these children available from the very young to the older ones, that's very important too. So all these things I call progress. I can remember, and I can tell you from progress because I'm pretty old. So I know that all those things have occurred. I knew there was a time when I was young, that we just laughed when we saw people or heard people talk about being gay or wearing strange clothes or saying strange things or walking together or holding hands or doing things like that. That was a no-no then. But that's why I know that there's been a lot of progress made. If there's anything that, let's see. I don't know what else there I could tell you, except that I am feeling much more comfortable now in my own communities. I am myself, I'm straight, but I feel so much a part of it that I feel like I belong. And I think that's what we all want, just to have that feeling. And it's a good feeling. So if anyone has anything more they would like to ask or say, I would certainly appreciate it. That's it then, I guess. If there's anything else you want to know, you can go to the Out Center. Mary Jo Schnell, who is now the director of the Out Center, is a delightful woman. She will be more than willing to sit down and talk with you. I have sent friends of mine to her who have worried or been concerned about their children. So she's there to direct you, to tell you where to go if you need to. That's progress. That wasn't at one time. Not only didn't want to do it, but it wasn't available. So that is the big thing that's going on in our world today and in the world of, I think, the whole world. But in the United States, I see absolute progress. So let's continue to stand up for those who think or feel or are a little different than maybe me or you or whoever. So if there's anything else later on when we have refreshments and stuff, please, you're more than willing. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
If you watch Gloria at Pride Fest, you couldn't see her walk more than 10 feet without somebody new coming up to her and talking to her. She's definitely a part of our community and a pioneer in helping us get to where we are today. So anyway, let's picture this. It's June 28th, 1969, a hot, clear, dark night with a full moon at 53 Christopher Street in New York City. A former tea house called the Bonnie Stonewell that later became a restaurant, which was destroyed on the inside by fire in the early 1960s. It was later reopened by Fat Tony Gloria as a gay bar, part of a network of mafia-owned illegal gay clubs in New York. The club still had evidence of the earlier fire. It had no running water or bathroom facilities. But despite the interior, the watered-down liquor, the dirty glasses, and the surly staff, it was the only place where queer people could go to dance. I use queer, always have. Some people are offended by the word. My community is not offended by the word queer. So I'll use that from now on so I don't struggle with that. They accepted the substandard conditions because it was the best that was offered to them. The club did draw a large clientele. The police did regularly raid the Stonewall, but the management was always somehow tipped off in advance, and they would turn up the lights to warn the crowd so that they knew to stop and any open displays of affection or slow dancing. It was said that the management bribed the police for protection and that the raids were only for show. However, on Tuesday, June 24th, 1969, there was another kind of raid. This raid was organized by the 1st Division of New York Police Department rather than the usual local 6th precinct. When the club was back up and running a few days later, the police decided to go in again on June 28th and shut it down for good. The police were accustomed to handling a large gay crowd with only a handful of officers, but this night the raid went very differently. Rather than leaving those that were released to leave remained outside the bar to wait for their friends. When the police vans arrived to take away those arrested, the crowd fought back and forced the police back into the bar. Onlookers turned to the turned on the barricaded bar with garbage cans and fire. The drag queens were said to have given the police not only the fiercest resistance, but a good dose of humor. They faced them down in a chorus line, dancing and singing. Inside the bar, the police, a few members of the press, and some patrons and staff waited inside. The officers were able to push one of the smaller members out a back window so he could go to a nearby station to get back up. As they waited inside, bricks and coins, as well as possible Molotov cocktails, were thrown at the bar. The police at one point opened the door and grabbed a young man who was standing in front of the door and started to beat him. The crowd rushed the police and pulled him back into the crowd. At that time, a member of the press that was in the bar said the police were speaking of going out and shooting. Luckily, just before they were to draw their guns, they heard sirens, knowing that backup was on the way. The crowd was controlled and dispersed shortly thereafter, only to emerge that night. People took to the streets yelling "Gay Power" and "Liberate Christopher Street." Riots and demonstrations continued throughout the following week. In the end, arrests and damage were minimal. But what astonished both the gays and the straight establishment was the queers openly fought back. That, my friends, is the story of Stonewall in a nutshell. Although there were many people there that had many different stories, it would take hours to go into them all. But this is, like I said, the story in a nutshell. Now picture this: the White Pete Mitchell Park, Benton Harbor, Michigan, June 24th, 2023, a hot, breezy, sunny day. A day of rejoicing and celebration of being queer, of being different, of being your authentic self, where hundreds of people of all shapes, sizes, ethnicities, sexual orientations, gender expressions came to a safe place to be who they were, to dress how they wanted, to speak openly about who they are, in a clean environment where they were treated with great respect, without any interference from the law or any laws that would allow the police to interfere. I took so much joy from this scene, so much that it changed the direction of my message. Initially, I had planned just to go over some history and the progress we had made and the joy I experienced from that progress. The scene I saw yesterday was the evidence of this progress of my queer people. Every victory we have won since Stonewall was there that day. Married queer couples were there with their children, as well as our straight allies with their children. Parents there with their openly queer children, offering them support. People able to relax and just enjoy a safe space. I talked with so many people there and was touched by so many things, but there were two experiences that brought so much joy to me that it was a spiritual experience. There was a mother there with her son who was dressed male, and with a pronoun sticker that says he, him. Also had a trans sticker. As they were speaking, talking about what they were planning for the day, I heard the mother say, "This is your day, honey. I'm just here to enjoy it with you. I'm here to support you. You decide what to do." And I thought, my God, everybody deserves a mother like that. Later, a real cute young couple came. We had face painting, came to have their face painted. One was rather talkative. And after his face was painted, asked to have a pride flag painted on his arm, but not too low. He had to be able to cover it for when he went home, as to not to show his family. As he spoke, every few sentences would include "my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that," and it was almost to the point of very excessive. But to me, I felt the greatest of joys knowing that he had a safe place where he could say "my boyfriend" as many times as he wanted to say "my boyfriend" and be safe. Pride, I feel, should be a time of celebration, not just for queer people, but for everyone. A time to celebrate our own resistance to the First Division of cops in our head, and to move from our own 53 Christopher Street to our own Dwight Mitchell Park. This, my friend, is my pride, my joy, my love, my strength, and my hope.
As I extinguish our chalice, let us continue our welcoming mission at BUUF and in our communities.